Today on What Went Wrong, we go all the way back to the beginning. Hi, I'm Brett Mauser, and one of my very first films was an English project based on Tale of Two Cities.
I was there for that.
Yes, you were. Now, just to give a little bit of history, I had shot, I think, a couple summers before, a couple stupid little short films with some friends of mine, some James Bond spoofs.
Right. Inspector Pierre.
I checked out Tom's alibi. It's 30. Now you're supposedly Tanya's alibi.
Inspector Pierre was my junior year of high school. We were supposed to do soap operas.
Right.
And it was supposed to be acted live, but I asked if I could do it on video. I think I did Macbeth before I did Tale of Two Cities.
Yeah.
But you and I had a senior English class together with Miss Finley.
Miss Finley.
And who was an actress in her own right. She was in
fantastic.
Thousand Chains. She was in an HBO movie.
Yeah.
Just a little extra and whatnot, but she did a little acting. But we drove her nuts.
Yeah. In a good way.
In a good way. Because we were engaged. We
Yes.
really enjoyed it.
The things that we drove her nuts about, so we would have discussions about that William Shakespeare wrote what he wrote because he wanted to eat.
Yes.
As opposed to the...
I was saying, he was the Saturday Night Live of his time.
Yeah.
He was for the common people,
Yeah.
common folk.
For all the the Romeo and Juliet, he also had like Richard III or something like he didn't hit them all. You know?
Well, and to this day, my mic test, when I got to test the mic, it's tomorrow, increasing this petty pace from day to day, the last syllable of recorded time, and all that yesterday.
I can't believe I still remember that stuff.
I know. But I
30
remember
years.
one of my favorite moments of high school was you and I in English class, and our assignment was to memorize his tomorrow soliloquy. And we were waiting our turn, and one of the students gets up and he does this very dramatic, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace, and he was doing it very dramatically.
Yeah. He was doing it very well, but not nearly as well as he could have done.
So I'm up. Tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day. And I'm doing it, and I'm doing up mine, and I sit down, and there's Finley just, oh, jeez. You would not be taught.
Well, I was like, oh, it's like that, is it?
And I remember you getting on desks at the top.
Everyone was doing it. It's like, and I'm like, I remember in this moment, it was kind of a somber occasion. It was like his wife had just died, and it's all falling around him, and so I'm like, I stood up on the desk and I was like, tomorrow creeps in this piety piece from D to D, the last syllable of recorded time. Oh, brief conduct. Life is but a poor player. I was all like grumbling, you know. And Mrs. Finley was just... But she loved us because we were engaged, because we argued with her, because we cared about the material, which is why we kept getting A's. It wasn't because we were that smart. It was because we really were at her with the information all the time, questions and stuff, and not like, why are we doing this? I was like, oh, well, wait a minute, Mrs. You know, and having these disagreements about what was going on, and she loved it.
Yeah.
She loved debating with us on stuff.
Well, it came time for, I think, our senior project, and you may have gotten straight A's in that class, but I was always fighting.
I didn't get straight A's. I did. This is one of the better classes I had.
For me, it was one of the ones that I wasn't doing so hot, and it was sort of that. I always credit this film as being the reason I graduated high school, because that class, I really needed that class. But so I had just done Macbeth, and we were in the Shakespeare Festival. We got to play Macbeth in that. You weren't in that one.
No, I wasn't.
And then
Although
Tale of Two Cities came along. And I don't think I read more than half the book, because I didn't know how it ended.
You know, I tried reading it, but oh my God, it's like, seriously? I mean, I read the beginning, because, it was Star Trek 2.
Yeah.
Best on the World. It was kind of part of that. And so as a kid, because for those of you who are familiar with Star Trek 2, at one point, Bones McCoy gives Kirk a copy of Tale of Two Cities and some glasses. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times, you know.
And then at the end,
it's a far, far better thing that I've done than I've ever done. And it was this whole thing about the Tale of Two Cities, and I was like, well, Star Trek's doing it. Oh my God, dude! I tried reading that book. I was like, this is crap. You know, it's complete. What the fuck is going on? I have no idea.
Twins, come on!
Really? Really? That's what we're gonna say? Might as well be aliens. Why not just have aliens? Is it aliens? Tell me it's alien. No, it's twins. Okay, not as cool as aliens. Yeah, it was the whole premise of the book just made me go, oh, come on. Nobody can tell. No one can tell. Nobody. All right, fine. Anyway, I hated the book too. I couldn't stand it. And so when you had this project, we had to do a project. I was like, oh, hell. Because I didn't do that well, but I still needed a good grade because I was, still trying to. College was not assured for any of us back then. We had to fight up until the very end of school. It wasn't like, oh, okay, I'm done, and you just quit and going to class. It was you had to pound this till the last day because schools could ditch you at the last second. So we had to, and so I'm like, I wish I didn't have to. I have to do this report. I'm like, I don't want to do a report. I don't want to do a project. This book is stupid. I hate it so much. This one and Catcher in the Rye. I just wanted to freaking just load him into a cannon and blast him to the moon. I'm gonna blast him to the moon, and I'm gonna get the world's most powerful telescope and then look at him on the moon and laugh. That's how angry I was about both of these books. But you come up to me and says, "Hey, you want to be in my film project about Tale of Two Cities?" I was like, "Yes, I do. I absolutely do." Because I don't have to. I don't have to do a whole project by myself, thank God. And B, we had a good time together around, and I'd seen the stuff you did on Macbeth. Let's do this. I'm so happy. I'm excited to be a part of it. I love this plan.
So we followed the book in present day
Kinda.
a little bit. We had the marquee. Because I was definitely I was on my Naked Gun Monty Python kick, where I was
who
just
wasn't?
stealing everything from
Monty
it.
Python was just
Well, so the pun, and we've always both been pun.
very just horrible.
And the high school had a big marquee out front, so we were like, oh, let's make a pun on
Let's
that.
make a pun of the marquee, and they were the marquee of our time.
And then we made you, what is it, the warring fractions of the Dr.
The
Dr.
Peppers and the Pibbs.
Pibbs.
What's your name? Pibb. Mr. Pibb? No, thank you.
I'm a pepper, you're a pepper, and I don't want to be a pepper.
And we followed a little bit with Pip's son getting run over, and
My son.
Do you know what kind of tax deduction he was?
And then my favorite, and then we jumped like almost immediately to how he was killed.
Yeah.
This was one of my favorite things because I didn't read the book. I didn't know how it ended when I took the test.
Right.
So I took the test. I was wrong, and he was actually hanged. I think he was hanged.
I don't know, and I don't care.
But I thought, well, being drawn quartered looked kind of cool.
Yeah.
Let's just do that.
Well, because hanging would be kind of anticlimactic, but let's attach ropes to someone's arms and rip them apart.
Yeah.
That sounds so much more fun.
So yeah, you sitting on a mailbox with I think sheets for arms.
Yeah, it rolled up towels.
And actually tied their arms to my car and JD's car and went off in different directions. And you're
And I'm sitting there like,
there's this moment like, well, what do I do now?
and I fell off, and then I fell off because I figured I'd be bleeding to death or something. So I fell off the thing.
And then of course our biggest Monty Python ripoff was when you were going to go kill Skufka's character.
Yeah.
And,
Pepper.
Yeah, Pepper. And you're running and he's looking and we use the same footage over and over and over again of you running towards the camera.
And all of a sudden I just show up behind him.
Yeah.
What?
Which was a complete ripoff of the Monty Python
Holy Grail.
Where John Cleese is running and he just all of a sudden appears out of everyone's in. And then this was probably I think our first attempt at a special effect. Defining special effect versus visual effect. Visual effects happen in the computer. Special effects are on set. So
Right.
it was special effect. We wanted to have him get stabbed and blood just go blah. So we put some food coloring in a balloon and then filled it up with water.
Yeah.
Shook it up a little bit, and then Skufka was going to release it. It's just like this. Every organ in his body hemorrhaged all at once, and there was only one tiny little hole to come through.
It's like I stabbed him with a flat-bladed knife, and then poosh, the stream. Go to the footage. The stream comes flying out, and of course I'm just like, I was watching it as we were all watching it, and I was just looking down and looking at you and looking down and looking at you and looking down and looking at you with this knife in my hand, and I went and smiled at the camera, having no idea what to do next,
And then of course
just watching all this.
And then I had to wrap it up at the end, and I gave the "It is a far,
It is
far,
far
better,
thing.
And then I didn't even get all the way through it. I think I was machine.
You got machine gunned to death because that was what they used in the. It's well known that in the French Revolution they used a guillotine and an M60 machine gun. Yeah. Well, it's well known fact.
Yeah.
And the thing was, Mrs. Finley loved it. She thought it was hilarious, and she gave us an A.
And we graduated.
And we graduated, obviously. Well, not obviously, but
Well,
we graduated, Not like that we would have been if we didn't graduate. I'm sorry you didn't graduate. We did graduate. I was relatively late to the party as far as high school goes with you guys.
With Ponder's Posse and Ponder's Productions.
Ponder's Posse and Ponder's Productions. Well, Mauser Home Studios back then.
Mauser Home Studios. Well, in '91, This Is Ponder's came out. And that's when it changed.
That's right.
Because Macbeth was the first Ponder's production.
That's right. Y'all the Ponder's Posse. And I didn't understand what that meant. Although I'd heard the song, This Is Ponder's by 2 In-U. And you said we're the Ponder's Posse. I was like, oh, I get it. But yeah, I guess I was relatively late to the party with you lunatics. And I didn't fit in necessarily with the rest of the guys as well. Y'all were mostly the speech and debate guys, and I was one of the band geeks, band jocks, and because Kingwood Band was weird. But we were next to each other in the classroom, in school, so we could, you were right there, we were right there.
I always likened us sort of to the Misfits, because everybody else, we didn't fit in any of the other cliques.
Right.
So we kind of congregated to ourselves.
Right. Well, and the band was Kingwood Band was huge.
Yeah.
And so we were kind of our own little band clique, plus we were kind of ferocious. And you guys just kept winning everything. And it was, for those of you who aren't familiar with Kingwood, back then, 30 years ago, Kingwood was well known in the Houston, East Texas area as being just a pressure cooker of intensity. And you didn't lose. We didn't lose. We had to win everything. Perfection was the only thing expected. And it led for a lot of problems for kids and a lot of drug use and other things. Suicides were a bad problem. We had a lot of kids kill themselves. But when you have that kind of intensity and that kind of weirdness, it lends itself to people grouping together. And even the geeks and the jocks and everything else like that, even though we had these different groups, we weren't really antagonistic toward each other.
I remember when I graduated, I snuck on my VHS camera and walked across the stage with it, and I remember the front row of the jocks cheering for me, Mauser! And I remember kind of being, wow.
It was a weird, and I tell people when I explain that, it's look, the jocks and everyone, the players and the girls on the dance team and the band and we were in our own little groups, but we weren't really mean to each other.
We were still all Kingwood.
Yeah, we weren't really mean to each other. And so whenever you succeeded, everyone celebrated. When the football team would win, we were all happy. When the AV guys, or not the AV guys, the AV guys, when the speech and debate would win, everyone celebrated. When the choir would go, everyone celebrated. When the band would go, everyone celebrated. It was one of the weird things about Kingwood. And so it kind of felt you could just kind of go from group to group to group to group without it being a big deal. And so when I arrived with the Ponder's Posse, y'all were a different weird. But no one thought anything of it. I was like, oh, here's Jeff. He's in the band. Everyone kind of had a thing where you're in the band, you're in the football team, you're in this, you're in that. But you could swim from group to group, and no one thought anything of it. The drill team girls weren't going to be all to you if you were in the drill team. You went and hung out with the choir kids, because a lot of them went back and forth anyway. And the band could do whatever they wanted, and the swim team could go hang out with the speech and debate squad, because everyone we all drifted around. And so I showed up and I'm like, hey, I'm the new kid. And everyone's like, hey, Jeff, come on in, and I knew Jacob because we did a project with him in ninth grade.
You did the Romeo and Juliet.
And it was the first time I ever hung out with you guys. With you guys? Did I say that?
Yeah.
My Detroit is showing.
Yeah.
I hung out with all of you, and it was natural, but it was weird. And I definitely, I've not then nor now had any real interest in filmmaking. Just didn't give a shit. I don't. But man, hanging out with you guys was a lot of fun, as it were. I loved being with y'all and doing the stuff and the vast amounts of punnage that was happening. Listening to you talk about your film stuff. I learned more than I'd ever learned about. I learned about shots and how things happen and whatever. And it was just the first time I'd ever had an exposure to this side of a film. And films never interested me that much anyway. I was just like, I didn't watch much television. I certainly didn't go to movies. I would watch maybe one movie a year.
But for me, that time was an essential part of my filmmaking career, what have you, because at that point I wasn't even going to be a filmmaker. I was going to be a magician.
Yeah, because you did all the magic tricks and stuff. We went to Magic Island for the prom with our dates.
Yeah, make sure you're at that. You and I went to prom together.
You and I went to prom together. We were going to talk about our first date.
We doubled. And you almost killed us.
I did not almost kill us. They didn't have the thing marked. I was like, we turned and there's cars. I'm like, whoops. And then spun us around real quick and we got the hell out of there. I did not almost kill you. I've almost killed us before and that was not it.
Yeah, but it was essential for me for filmmaking because none of it mattered.
Right.
I wasn't trying to impress anybody. It was all just for fun.
Yeah.
Let's make a movie.
Yeah.
This is cool.
We had a good time.
Yeah.
I always had a good time.
I was able to experiment. And I remember, like the holy grail for me for filmmaking for the longest years was doing a cross dissolve. Going from one video to another and you kind of fade from one into the other.
Oh, yeah.
And because you couldn't do that with just a VHS camcorder when you're editing from VCR to VCR. But I was always trying to figure it out. And I remember I want to do a cross dissolve. So I had an old stereo that had left and right channel balance. You could go from left to right on your speakers. And I was thinking, well, if it works for audio, why wouldn't it work for video? I could put a
line in
on the left channel and a line in on the right channel, and my video cables play on two VCRs, spit out to a third VCR, and I go from right to left. Why wouldn't that happen? And then there's this whole thing about Genlock, and then that caused me to go figure out, okay, well, why didn't that work? And then I read, there's this thing called Genlock, which has to sync it all up, and you need a special device that's going to, synchronize the video to do this and do that. Figuring out angles. I learned, that was one of the first things I learned was like the John Wayne punch. How to look like somebody's getting hit and not actually getting hit.
That was one of the things we got figured out pretty quick too.
And those were always the funnest things to do. The fights, the hits, and it was because it was goofy.
Because we used to hit each other with all kinds of stuff, sticks and stones and swords and.
Oh yeah, and
throw me into walls. And stuff.
and when the most that we had writing on it was a grade in an English class, who cared whether it was good or not? You were just.
Mrs. Finley was going to be happy we were putting in the effort.
Yeah, for me, I just want to make people laugh.
Yeah.
Is this funny? Is people going to laugh at this? Why? Which is why people would love the bloopers more than they would the movies.
Bloopers were hilarious.
But yeah, so it was just any especially after Macbeth, and then I was always looking for something audiovisual to do with my projects. If I had to make a diorama or go make a movie, I'm going to go make a movie. Because it was fun.
Yeah.
And I think that was what destroyed my life because it made me, that's what made me have a passion for film.
Right.
Because it was fun to start with. And then the hard times and everything came later when I started going, okay, this has to be better. We've got to tell an actual story, make it look good, make it sound good. Then all the stress started coming in.
It's one thing if the audience is your English teacher who thinks you're a bunch of goofballs anyway, and you're going to make her laugh. Well, if you're going to make her laugh and do whatever and show that you care and that you're trying, and she's going to give you a good grade for it because she likes the fact that you did that and you're involved. Yeah.
So I wouldn't say there was anything that you couldn't say what went wrong on Tale of Two Cities because we weren't trying. There wasn't anything to do right.
No.
We were just farting around.
Everything went wrong, and the fact that it went wrong was even better.
Yeah.
The balloon with
the balloon squirting
was totally wrong. Was completely wrong. But it was almost we were almost spoofing ourselves. Yeah, but it says, yep, we really are a bunch of high school kids doing a film project.
Yeah. And then I think when Miss Dr. Pepper ran over your son, we just put a log under the car.
Well, when you were, we had the conversation with your dad, with Skufka, when you were younger, Pepper. And,
Oh, and I'm kicking-
and you were kicking. You kick the peasants and you stomp, and you just wah, and my arm flies up, and you kick them and boom, my legs fly up.
Oh, I forgot one of our first uses of Mongo. And he's still with us in the garage.
Yeah.
Everyone always asks me, "Why is there a stuffed monkey in your garage?" Well, that's Mongo. That's our first stunt double.
Yeah.
And that was me. Was it me that was running? Yeah, I was running because I was.
You were the one. You were my son.
Yeah, and I was running, and he hits me, and I cut, and we throw the monkey over the car.
Right. Manga as the car drives
Put
up.
my shirt on the monkey, and then just threw it over, and he splats. But those stupid little things made us think and figure out how we were going to do that.
Right.
This will be funny. How do we do this? We weren't thinking about stunts and logistics and framing and all of that. We were just trying to figure out, okay, how do we make it look like this is happening?
Right.
And
How do we do this even in goofy monkey magic? How do we make what we're trying to say happen?
Yeah. No training, no book.
No idea what we were doing.
Yeah, we had a camera and we had watched movies before, and this is what they looked like.
And this is what they look like.
And that's where we started.
We had a little bit of ingenuity and a lot of time. Not a lot of time, but we had time.
Yeah. So, and Tale of Two Cities and Macbeth are two of the films that I'll pull out, especially in my fundamentals class. When some of the students make a film, they really want to be filmmakers, and they make a film, and it's nothing like what they... And I'll pull those out, and I'll say, yeah, your film didn't come out great. You had a lot of issues, a lot of problems. Let me show you my first film. Bravo. I've put on Macbeth. And, while they'll chuckle at this or that...
He's got a henchman.
Yeah.
Wham.
They still... It smacks them.
Yeah.
And it smacks them with the reality and realize, okay, yeah, your first film is always going to be... You're going to suck. But... Keep at it, keep working at it, and you'll get to the Innocent Saga. Yeah. You'll get to Green Conspiracy. You'll get to Lady Lawman. Mm-hmm. If you look at Macbeth and say this is the same person that made Lady Lawman.
Yeah.
It's called growth.
It's called growth. It's called time. It's called practice. It's called work. Mm-hmm. Work. It's called the hard work. It's called failing a lot. Yeah. The way you learn is failing. Don't be afraid to fail, but understand it has to start somewhere. The love has to be there. And everyone has a beginning point. Everyone has a point where they sit somewhere and they're looking up the mountain and it's like, I want to be up there. How do I do it?
Yeah.
You can't just be up there.
Yeah.
You have to walk up the mountain. Yeah. It takes a long time.
And look at the silver lining too. Even though we failed as filmmakers with The Tale of Two Cities, we passed English.
We passed English with actually a better grade than either of us should have gotten, really. Yeah.